All right, we're here with another episode of Lessons in Lost Love and Resilience. And for the first time, I have someone slightly younger in the generation than myself. And Anthony, it's a pleasure to have you on. Anthony's been a friend for a long time. I've known him since he was pretty much born. I grew up with his mother and father here in town. And Anthony, thanks for joining me.
Yeah, thank you. I'm happy to be here.
Anthony's the short version is of the story is some people know Elena, our daughter, lost her life in a mass shooting in November of 2018. Anthony's aunt ran our memorial service for Elena, and about 9 months later, we were doing a Splashes of Hope event here at the house where somebody had donated a mural, a good friend of ours, and so we were all here painting it. And Anthony's cousin was here, was part of the family that had joined us that day and was doing it. And a week later, there was a tragedy that struck their family. And so I really appreciate you coming on to talk about your grief journey and your positive mindset and the things that you have going on. So Anthony, what could you tell us about, like, obviously where you're comfortable to talk about, like, okay, family has a tragedy, and then what?
Yeah, so I mean, the way I've seen it and how it overall I had to experience everything was there was a party that we were preparing for. It was my grandma's birthday, and we were all preparing. And during that, there was an accident, and I lost our youngest cousin. Her name was Addie, and we obviously were us all being there, a part of the party. Dealing with that loss was very difficult, and a major thing overall, especially as we worked through it, especially the younger kids, like my cousins and my siblings, us dealing with that loss in our own ways has given me a lot of experience just seeing how many different people deal with different like issues and dealing with the grieving process. And I think for me, a major thing that occurred through all of it was becoming okay with sometimes not being as expressive or being as just visually distraught and destroyed. Like for me, it was never a matter of truly breaking down just this weight on top of me that I couldn't manage. And a lot of the time dealing with loss at that age, when I wasn't feeling overwhelmed like that, I almost felt like there was something wrong. Like maybe I didn't truly love the same way that my family had. And navigating that for myself was difficult, but I've come to appreciate the way in which I live and love and be with people, and have just come to recognize that maybe that big visual response isn't the way in which I grieve. And so it's something I can manage through and walk through and continue to make differences in ways that I want to. So
That's
that's
awesome.
that's
Yeah.
kind of how it goes.
I tell people, like, I describe it for myself as I have this beach ball that I'm carrying for the rest of my life. I can stuff it underwater and try to pretend it's not there. Or, and then if I lose my balance, it's going to pop back up. Or I can hold it and do it and carry it with me because I'm going to for the rest of my life because of that loss, right? And I think the chaplain, the night or the day we were informed, just said, hey, don't worry about tomorrow or next week. Just go with right now. If you need to cry, cry. If you want to eat, eat. If you're tired, go sleep. But don't try to overplan. And so I say that to you because you guys are a very big, tight knit family. I mean, there's multiple sisters and tons of cousins, and even though they're all like apart, it's like every family party is like, you know, it is a big
Yeah.
Catholic celebration of 400 people showing up, like it is for me with Hannah and the Filipino side, right? And
Mhm.
so you probably saw everybody grieving in a different way, like all of your family members. How was it for you to that? Was that how you figured your way through it, by watching others, or?
I think for me, I was able to take a role of being supportive for those around me and learning to accept when I needed moments as well. There were many times at school, because this was happening when I was in high school, and there were times at school where I just felt overwhelmed and I needed to leave or take moments. And I know my cousins felt similar experiences. But like you were saying, with the chaplain expressing to just grief in the way necessary, eating when you think eating is the right thing to do, being in that big family, it kind of had everybody having their, like, whatever they think they needed and trying to do that. But then us wanting to help each other became a mesh of doing what you want, but then also trying to be supportive and doing what somebody else may want. And overall, I think everybody just being in that loving environment and giving when they could and asking when they needed to, it got us all through it, and we all walked out about as positively as we could. So
Yeah. Yeah, for
yeah.
sure. Well, and the families had tragedies over the years. So was it your uncle maybe that?
Yes. So my uncle Patrick, he died when I was about, I think I was like 1 or 2.
Yeah, you were young.
And yeah, it was a drinking and driving accident.
Yeah.
So as far as my involvement in it, I had no
No, but
perception of
your
it, but
family
walking
had dealt
into the
with it.
family.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah. So I didn't know how old you were at the time. I remember he was probably only 23 or so, but the family, at least the aunts and uncles, had all dealt with young loss, right, in that way. And so they've been through it. So they're also showing you how they're going through it as you're seeing it at the next level, right, at
Yeah.
the younger age group. Were you the oldest of the cousins?
I'm the oldest boy, but not necessarily that does
Oh,
anything. I
that's
have
right.
my older sister.
That's right. Your older sister. You're right.
Yeah, and then there was Bree as well, who is the oldest cousin.
Okay, that's right. That's right. Yeah, we don't usually count Bill because nobody wants to count Bill, right? I'll make sure he gets a copy of that. So how has it been for you? Like, I mean, so you graduated 2020,
2021, high school.
2021. Okay. Okay.
Yeah.
So you were going through, you went all through this, and so it was 2019. So 20, so you went back and were dealing with school and everything else. How was it as a youth? Like, there have been a lot of people that have asked me like how Alex handled his stuff. How was it when friends were communicating and on campus? What did you have, like, any suggestions, or was it awkward, or did people kind of just look at you different, or did it seem weird when you went back to campus to try to?
You know, genuinely, I don't feel as though I felt like I was treated any different. The friends who knew me, like, knew what I was going through, and we had our own ways of managing through. Just some friends wanted to be major supporters, and they were there and involved, and others I could rely on to just be a friend that I could kind of go back to what was normal and stuff like that. So I didn't feel the eyes, but then again, like, at the same time, at the same school, my cousin Nick, who was a direct sibling of it, was there. And so I can almost assure that he felt a little bit more watched and tracked of, as opposed to me. It was kind of a, we'll just respond to however Anthony wants to manage, and we can do that.
Well, and I know Nick and Alex, my son, are they've kind of bonded in a different way, but right, by both losing a sibling and how they did. And while Sophia, the middle sister, so Addie was the youngest, Sophia, and then Nick, she was just different in age, where we just, and she's super quiet. Like, I mean, I know she's probably not around you guys when you're all together as a family, but she was super quiet. So, and Nick is the opposite. So it was funny to see it, because just seeing them, because Hannah was the leadership teacher, obviously, that you were in her class. I'm saying it for the listeners, but also Nick was in the class and Alex was in the class, and so it was such an experience to go through the loss of Elena and have the student body around it, and then the loss of Addie. And even though it wasn't a student that was connected to the school in that way, it was somebody that was connected to a lot of the students at the school in that way,
Yeah.
and the tragedy that came with it. So it was a lot in a short period. What would you give any suggestions around communication with your kids? Like, not your kids, but someone speaking to you. How did you appreciate being communicated with? Like, I'd rather them be super honest with me. And was that the same with your cousins? Like, did you want the family to kind of tell you what was going on and keep you in the loop, or were you preferring that they kind of kept you a little bit sheltered from it?
For me, I've always wanted to be in just clear, like, everyone's telling me the same thing. I like to be a part of the conversation at the table. I can't say the same for the younger ones. There were definitely cases where the really young cousins at the time, who couldn't have been like around 8 to 12. With those kids, they definitely sometimes did better off without all of the exposure to all the conversations. But the grieving process for me was one that I wanted to be able to express openly with my family. That openness was probably what kept me like really positive and excited to keep growing and keep working with everyone around me. And it's definitely deepened the relationships I've had with them. But
It's funny. I years ago I happened to come home from work. I was tired one day and I wanted noise on because I used to sleep with the TV on and Oprah was on, right? I'm like, whatever. And this therapist is talking and was talking about like being honest with your children. And so he or she, who I don't remember who it was, but they mentioned like be honest with your kids. If you want to build this relationship with them long term, you have to be honest with them if they ask you a question. He said, for example, if your 5 year old asks you how babies are made, you say, well, mommy and daddy love each other. And if they can take that as an answer, you're done. You're not lying to them. And then he says, if they're still asking questions, you say, well, they sleep together at night, blah, blah, blah. But he goes, you don't need to go into the acts of intercourse and what happens. And da-da. He goes, but at 9, 10, 11, like you kind of graduate into something more. So I can see why you say in those 8 to 12-year-olds, like they were given a little bit more of a sheltered, discussion of what happened or to do that versus the honesty. Because how old were you? So if you graduated, so you were a junior, sophomore in high school?
I think I was a sophomore. It was like the end of my sophomore year.
Yeah.
So I must have been around like 16.
Yeah. Okay. So yeah. So well, it was in September, wasn't it? Yeah, it was in
Yes.
September. So it would have been the start of your junior year, I guess. Would have been 2019 because that would
I
have been.
guess so.
Yeah. So I'm just well, and I'm only giving you that, or I'm saying that to kind of say where you were at maturity wise, right? I mean, you've been forced to grow up in your own way for what you've gone through, but at the same time, your maturity level as a junior in high school or sophomore junior in that time frame for people to understand of the communication and being honest with it. I know when we woke up Alex that morning, we waited because we were like, what are we going to do? Like, are we flying down there? Are we were trying to go through the motions of to get to Southern California to know. I wanted to stay. I thought we were supposed to get a phone call and be informed. I was like, well, what if they try to call us? And then Chaplain Lee Shaw from here, who I'm sure you met in the process, Chaplain Lee said, I called him and I said, what should I do? And he says, well, if you want to see her and if she is alive and give her a hug and be there for her, then you got to go. And he says, and if what we both believe is the inevitable, then you got to go. And he said, and so I was like, yeah. He's like, you knew all along, and I said, I did. I just didn't. I don't understand the process, and I'm trying to wrap my head around it. So we waited. We got our stuff together. We then woke up Alex, and I said, there's been an accident. And Alex is like, and I said, we have to go down to down south. And he says, is Lena okay? And we were in tears and said, we don't think so. And I remember him a few days later saying to me, like, Dad, that it wasn't an accident. You told me it was an accident. Now, he was a freshman in high school.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, because you were a sophomore at the time. So Alex was a freshman in high school. And, again, that's that coming back to being honest with him. And I'm like, I wasn't lying, but I guess I was by saying the word accident. How do you wake up your child and say, hey, there's been a mass shooting and we think your sister was a victim? Let's go. Like,
It's really hard. I can imagine that.
yeah. What so you guys were setting up for the event when the accident happened. Were all the parents like then running in and being there with you guys or what and you don't
So,
have to go through any of the details. I'm just trying to
yeah,
understand
of
'cause like
course.
I said, your family is huge. And so I'm just going, gosh, like I can't imagine the chaos and the scare, like the everything going on.
Yes. I mean, I can't give the details just for the sake of not remembering specific people. I couldn't use a name for exactly who was there. I just know that, like, in it was very chaotic. A cousin and I were rolling a table, and then, like, there were a couple of us outside and a couple inside, and there were family who was away because they were dropping off other kids at sports and other things. So everyone was around doing whatever. So it was a mesh of random aunts, uncles, and cousins doing stuff. So when it happened, it was like I was the first one there lifting the chairs off. So that was where I was, and then we had aunts and other people calling authorities and doing everything and navigating people in and clearing space and so forth.
I've met a lot of people over the years, and I apologize if that was, I didn't mean it to be that, like, in that way, but thank you for the honesty with it. I've met people that they blame themselves after, like, and there was nobody to blame in this scenario, right? Like, this was a freak accident. How did like the different layers of the families, like, did they look and go like, we should have been there? Like, I mean, none of those are real, right? Like, for me, like, we told Elena to go out that night. Like, we were like, you're a nerd, please go out and do something. And she had the chance to go dancing. What's wrong with that, right? Some people would take that and go, oh my gosh, I should have never told her to go out. Right? Again, that's, I call it the dark road of why. There's no changing that, the outcome. And so I'm not asking that, like, should people have blamed anybody? Did you see certain people like questioning their decisions in that versus, oh my gosh, this is just a freak accident? Because grief is so hard for people to wrap their head around.
There were definitely really big challenges for the adults on the scene who were there and were giving tasks that were completely normal tasks to be giving, like telling me to roll out tables and doing other things, and then telling another person to go move the chairs is another thing. So there was just for those adults especially, they felt a little to blame for the fact that they weren't really cautious about the tasks that were given out to everybody and keeping track of Addie because she was the youngest.
Yeah.
That was something that some had to navigate. Ultimately, yeah, following that road of why I allowed something like that to happen when there was no possible way of explaining how or why it could. It was,
Well,
yeah, it's just difficult.
and I say that because I mean, I've been to some of the events like at the high school and different places that your family's there and they're there in numbers, but everybody's helping.
Mhm.
We're carrying tables, we're taking the stanchions out, we're doing, like, everybody's just wanting to be there and wanting to help. And, such a freak incident is so scary. Yet, like, I've had people tell me that they don't want their child to go away to college. I've had them tell me that they're afraid of, and I said, well, Alex went to England, and they look at me like, how do you do it? And I'm like, because I can't stop him from living his life
Yeah.
and be scared. I mean, this could have happened at the Napa Junior College. Like, this
Mhm.
didn't have to be in Thousand Oaks, right? And we can't live our life in a bubble. So it's one of those of being willing to still go live your life and live it in a way that we all understand that life is precious. Our time here is, every day is a day closer to our last day here, right?
Definitely.
So no, that's amazing. And it was hard for us, for Hannah and I, because when we heard the news, I heard the news through the soccer program. I was on the board and they said, "Hey, there's been an accident, just letting you know." And I said, "Well, maybe I should reach out to the family because it was 8 months after Elena's murder and just be there if I know them." And then they told me who it was, and I was like, "Oh my God, she was at my house last Friday." Like, they were at my house last Friday. And then I reached out, I might have been to Bill, and just said, "Hey, don't feel like we need to be there. This is not about us, but if you feel Megan and Jason and the family would want us around, we're happy to come over and just be there for love and support." And like, those are those moments that I like, don't want people to feel like net, like we're asking to be there. We're saying we'll be there in a second if you need us there, and if you
Mhm.
don't, we're willing to step back, just, and and maybe it was Colleen, and they said, yeah, if you'd come over. And so then we went over there, and we're in the which was it was amazing to see how much love and smile and laughters immediately. Like, I mean, it
Yeah.
wasn't long, it was that same day. Yet at the same time, obviously the sorrow and the tears and everything else going on for obvious reasons. But to be there as a non-family member, but be embraced the way that the family did in there, was pretty awesome. You could see how much love you guys have in the room and how amazing that was to be there and be surrounded by it. So kudos to that. And hopefully we can all learn from those things
Yeah.
going forward.
It's It's definitely something that our family does is we just want more people around for the sake of if they're going to offer love to the room, then we'll be there to receive and give it back. So yeah, and being there in a way that is fully just to help us through it. Of course, we wanted to accept all of it.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. So now 6 years later, you guys are still super close. You're off to college.
Well, I just graduated. I'm back
You're back.
officially.
You're
Yeah.
back in Napa officially. Oh, that's why you've seen them lately, or you saw Hannah recently.
Yes.
So how was the experience for you getting off and going? Were you reluctant to go? You've learned something in the last 6 years from this. Like what's changed you as a person?
Most definitely. Well, I think for me there wasn't much reluctance in going to college. As much as I love my family, I wanted to go out and explore and live my life. And for me, it's always been this I love the community that I've been given. Like, I grew up in a place that was completely given to me because of the family and the community that they've already established. So I had a place rightfully. And so I've always wanted to explore and make something of my own, my friends that have connected me to others and make a community like that. So that's definitely just been something that has driven me to leave Napa. But within all of the experience that I had gained over this event, it just strengthened my need and my reliance on just building great relationships and really committing a lot of time, energy, and effort into not only establishing new relationships, but then continuing to circle back and check in the really easy medial ways, but the ways that keep you talking to somebody and connecting with others. That's definitely been the major driver for a lot of why I work to build communities and to connect with other people. Because I think having gone through an experience that I watched just destroy my family and other people who I really care about, I also got to witness that the thing that helped us recover in the way that we did and helped us continue to move forward were the strong bonds and the strong relationships that we had within the community. So while I have the ability to enjoy that community that I'm already in, I would love to share that idea with others just in case they don't have somebody available to them like that. So because I have the strength and because I'm willing to do it, and because I love connecting with other people, it's just the natural way in which I want to go.
Yeah, that's awesome. What did you end up studying at school?
So I came into school entering with a computer engineering idea. I wanted to work with tech and computers, but after my freshman summer, I realized after looking into my interests, really checking out what I was really pulled towards, I found a lot of interest in my own personal finance and business mindset and then psychology. So I jumped in as a business major, got into business management, and that has a lot of strong ties to leadership. So it was from there, it was where I wanted to be and has been really cool.
Awesome. So you're all done now. You're back home. How would you see the opportunity? I mean, I see a similar tragedy hitting a family, and like when you said destroy, and it just like in my head, I got this vision of, like a city just being like, let's just say the Ukraine right now, or right, or
Mhm.
that just getting pummeled, and then the people rebuilding and the people still wanting to live there. So I kind of visualized that when you were describing it, because I saw how quickly your family just immediately, like circled the wagons and were there for each other to rebuild. I mean, have you witnessed, or what would you suggest either way to a family that's not, that doesn't have that? Like what if you were a part of a family, or if you had a friend that went through something, a tragedy, and they're trying to do it and they don't have the family strength and structure, like what would you suggest to someone?
Well, ultimately, I hope that there are people in their life who they can rely on, obviously. And that's what would motivate me to hope for them to work on developing a strong relationship, friendship sort of thing to kind of create that similar family without, say, being blood. Because I don't think that's the necessary thing making it what it was. But for somebody who's having to navigate that entirely alone or without anybody and really feeling disconnected from a community or a family, then I can definitely say that there are organizations who want to give first and support, and like church groups and other organizations that have experienced what you have. I'm sure I wasn't given those same sorts of like connections, but there are probably online groups and other things like this that can help connect you with a community in its own light. So it's my only recommendation is to just reach your hands out and to hope to connect with somebody who's willing to reach theirs out as well.
It's fun, and I didn't know where I was going when I first started asking it, but just because you feel so blessed in ways that our family and your family had that group, right? And so it made me think about for our scenario, there was 12 other families, including the shooter's family that had hit their own scenarios that they were going through, right? And so I thought about it going, gosh, like I can't imagine having if they were feeling that, and then as you were describing it, the term isolation kind of kept coming to me, like if you feel isolated, and then I'm hearing of people dealing with the anxiety and the depression that they then just go and close their door and sit in their room and in the darkness, and you've said it a couple times of being light and being love, like I've earlier in it where it's like there's a lot of symbolism in like getting out and being outside and being, like letting in light to see, to be able to move forward. Obviously you never move on because Addie will be a part of your life for forever, right? Even if it was just for the little time she was here, but you still take her with you everywhere you go, and we do with everybody that we lose before.
Yeah.
So somebody said it to me recently, there's a reason, a season, or a lifetime people come into our lives. So, you take these and we try to help and teach and nurture others too in their journeys. So so now business, are you looking to go, but you said psychology as well. Are you looking to go into like a business, or what are you gonna?
All right, so right now I've got a really cool thing going on that I'm really excited about. Basically, for the past since 2017, my Aunt Megan has been she had been working to develop a youth leadership academy, and it was a summer program where we offered students the opportunity to learn all about leadership. And we targeted specifically middle schoolers because what we were doing with them was hopefully opening them up to the idea, the concept that they are capable of creating an impact, being a leader, recognizing themselves as a leader, even without a title. That way, once they were moving into high school, they start creating impact and start getting involved and jumping into leadership classes or becoming an influential member of their community. So I've always loved that. Over some of the summers in college, I would come back and I'd be a part of it. And since then, since I moved back to Napa, I have been working to turn it into a year-round program. Right now, we're offering a fall program that we're piloting after school. And it's capturing the same essence, but doing it in a different model. And I'm hoping to expand with the Youth Leadership Academy entirely. I was talking to Megan and Colleen Giovanoni as well, who we were both facilitators with Megan to get it all done, and we had these goals of expansion. So me coming back from school, not necessarily because of the fact that it is difficult to find a job and with a random business degree, like it's so general, it can be difficult without a lot of experience in one specific thing or an internship in another. I decided to put my time and energy into making this bigger, while Megan and Colleen can't because they have full-time jobs. So with their guidance, we are making it something more exciting and more expansive.
That's awesome. No, it's like I'm a firm believer that today's youth are tomorrow's leaders, right? So we can see it with the movement towards faith in our nation and in our world right now. You're seeing it with the movement towards being better for the environment. Obviously, there's the outliers of people going different directions too, with the craziness of politics and things going on. But really, just seeing people kind of step up and communicate well and have the confidence to do that, because what I was seeing for the last decade was your generation get enveloped in their technology. And so like when you were saying you went and you build these communities, you talk to people, you go out and Like I used to say it to Alex, would joke around. He goes, "You meet people everywhere. Like, how do you know all these people?" And I said, "Well, I just talk to people. If I'm on an elevator, I say hello. If they start talking, then whatever. Like, you never know who you meet, right?" And I've had some pretty awesome people now come into my life because of just being communicative and saying hello and meeting people and being outgoing. And the younger generation is very much like I watch them in restaurants and everything. They're on their tech all the time. And so to really put that down, be aware, communicate with people is a great trait to really teach the younger generation, or at least a group of them, to know that you really don't need to see the hour long of memes today to really feel good about the funny thing that you saw, that you'll never get that hour back. So if somebody wants to share it, sure, but don't, waste your life on some of that stuff. So it's really cool to hear that you're trying to get this program like more year round and do that kind of thing, because it's definitely needed in our community. So
Yeah.
and then hopefully then that can replicate and go bigger at some point.
That's my goal, right? So Megan wants to really focus on Napa, and she's great about Napa because of her community. Her ties are way stronger than even mine are. So she hopes to really make this something amazing within Napa. But my ideas are to also support my lifestyle goals of being able to explore and meet new people elsewhere. So the expansion goals for it are to also leave Napa.
Yeah. When you get a chance, Anthony, we can talk offline. So Elena's voice is we're kicking off the Hopeful Cities project in Napa Valley. So we'll be the first hopeful city on the West Coast. And Megan is our ambassador. She's the hope ambassador that somebody said, "Oh, Arik, you're going to do it." And I go, "No, we need this. There's a person that's going to be doing this." And when I said something to Hannah, Hannah's like, "This should be Megan." And I said, "Yeah, I already told him that." So it was funny of how it just came out. But the reason why I say is both she and then Scarlett Lewis, who Scarlett lost her son Jesse in the shooting at Sandy Hook, and she started the Choose Love movement. So both of them have started a program that they're now replicating in businesses or across the country in schools and school districts. So if you've got a leadership program that can work and function, that can be really something good that they can maybe give you some suggestions on how to replicate. My thought would be is land it, like make it successful here in Napa, like first, and then start to look to replicate. But they'd be good ones to ask on how they kind of got it to spread. So I'd be happy to make those introductions when the time comes.
Well, I always look forward to getting to talk about making this a bigger, more impactful thing. So I look forward to that.
I appreciate it. Anthony, thanks for joining me today. I appreciate having another male on, because a lot of people are surprised to hear that men can talk about grief too, but especially someone younger that dealt with grief in the way that you did and how you came together to tell people your story. So I really appreciate you taking the time, and thanks for joining me.